Welcome everyone to the first Concrete Vision webinar. This is a new feature that we're planning to roll out and hoping to be able to do monthly webinars that we can introduce new things in the software and do training for users through webinars so that everyone is able to join us and see it. Thank you all for being at our first one. Just as a notification, we are recording the webinar, and if everything goes well, we plan to release it probably on our support website as something that you will be able to go back and watch. Nobody should be able to see cameras or hear mics of anybody but the presenter. And we will make sure that we have it as cleaned up as we can before we post it. Today, the first webinar will be, let me see, there we go. My name is Brent Willson. I'm the project manager for Concrete Vision. I'll be hosting and moderating the webinar today. Our presenter today is going to be Dan VanWieren. He is the president of Concrete Vision and the founder. So he's going to be going over all of the content during the content portion of the webinar. Before we start, I will go through a quick rundown of our agenda. All right. Our agenda today, we're going to be talking about the new standard product and standard assembly features in Concrete Vision. What are the benefits that they give you as a customer? We're going to introduce you to how they work, how you would create a standard piece, how you would create a standard assembly, how to add standard pieces and assemblies to a quote, and how to add standard pieces and assemblies to a job. The main function of this new feature is for piece marks and pieces that you make over and over again the same way. If you make culverts, barriers, catch basins, manhole covers, cornices, any product that you always make the same way over and over again, you can put into the system with drawing, bill of materials, all of the information, so that that doesn't have to be imported in the traditional project way. You can just pop it right into Concrete Vision. It'll still be something that you can edit and modify after you add it, but it is something that you can then have in the system so you don't have to retype and re-import every time you do a standard project in Concrete Vision. So that is what we are going to go over today. At the end, we will have some time for Q&A. It will be only done in the chat function. There won't be any audio, but if you have questions as we go through, feel free to click on the chat window and type questions into the chat, and we'll go through those at the end of the presentation and see what questions we can answer and what ones we need to reconnect with people to get them the answers to their questions. So thank you all for that. And now I'm going to hand over to Dan to begin showing us the standard pieces and assemblies in Concrete Vision.
Okay, good afternoon. Like Brent was saying, what we're going to be showing is a new component that we've added recently into Concrete Vision, dealing with repetitive piece marks, pieces, bill of materials. Underneath accounting, at the bottom, there's a product code assembly, Piecemark templates, standard assemblies, and then there's also the production material setup, which is where you have your material categories, items, and assemblies. The first step in doing this, I will show you basically a basic assembly. I'm going to just show you a barrier. These are pretty basic. Some people make them, some don't, but this will get across the general concept of how this works. So I have this standard detail for a barrier. It has all of my material on here. Excuse me. And so what I'll do is, first thing is you would want to go in and make sure that all of your standard items or assemblies are set up in Concrete Vision. You can come into your material items. To add a new one, you'd be able to select which category does that belong into. Miscellaneous. I'll just call this a miscellaneous item. And then you can also assign a cost, a weight. You can select which general ledger code would it go to, miscellaneous material, and then also what is the consumption or bill of material unit. I'm going to just say each. And then purchasing, what unit do you purchase it in? And then there's also your unit conversion, which would be the purchased unit divided by your unit conversion would then give you your consumed bill of material unit. And then you can also track material waste. The unit conversion, material waste, these units, those come into play dealing more with our material reporting in part of Concrete Vision, which we will be covering in a future webinar as well. Also over here, there's 3 checkboxes down here, and that relates to where is this material going to be used? Is it only for production? Is it for cast in place, or is it only for erecting? And those are, if you're adding material into the system, you can group it based on these 3 different groupings. And then also for reporting, you can select where you would only see material based on production, CIP, or erecting. Same type of concept for your material assemblies. You would go into your material assemblies, and the way Concrete Vision defines a material assembly is anything where you're manipulating the base raw material. So the primary example, which some people feel sometimes is a little confusing, is with your standard bent bar or standard straight bar. We consider those assemblies in Concrete Vision because you're taking that raw rebar material and making it a standard shape, whether it's a straight bar or a bent bar. And so in here, you have different material assembly categories. For a straight bar, I'll just say a number 4 bar, 8 feet long, 6 inches. And again, the material numbers are unique, and then that would be related to, however you label your material. There's also a bend type, and then again, the GL code, and then your units, just like you would have on an individual item. Down below is where you would add the subcomponents to this item. And so this being a rebar, it would be a number 4 bar, 1, and then the length of it is 8.5 for 8 feet 6 inches. We do have a way to, if you can see here where it's showing a calculated cost, calculated weight. So if you have costs and weights associated to the subassembly items, you can just click on the updated cost field, and that would automatically update this item to include that material cost, material weight. Now, the next step in creating a standard piece is going into the Piecemark Template screen. And you can see here where we already have several of them already created. And so I'm going to just go in and add a new one. "12 feet inches." You would want to put in your what you would want it to start out as, like a standard piece mark. And this can be changed once it's added to a project. This is just what the initial name would be called when you're copying it to the job. So I'm going to just call it a BR1208. I would select where my location, which plant is it going to be at, the category, what type of product, and then what cross section. And then again, I'm filling in all of the dimensions here based on from the drawing. It's going to be 12 foot 8 inches long. The drawing is showing that it's 1 foot 10.5 wide, and the depth or height is 2 feet 8 inches. And then again, from my drawing, I can pick up the rest of my other information, my weight, cubic yards, release strengths as well. So it would have the 51.6. My cubic yards is 1.27. The release strength and 28-day release strength. Once I save that, it then opens up my additional tabs where I have my material items. And so this would be for your more or less your standard raw material items. For the specific barrier, there are not any. And there would just be the material assemblies, which is where we would be able to bring in all of the different rebar that we have here shown on the drawing. And so you would just come in here and select, I'm going to have a straight bar, and then this is going to pull up all of your standard straight bars that you have. And then you can put in the quantity needed. And then again, you can do the same thing for bent bar, and then it would pull up all of the standards that you have for your different bent bars. And again, you would just put in whatever your specific quantity is needed for that material. And then once you save that, it now saves that specific piece mark with all of that material associated to it. And so if I come in and pull up like any of our other ones that we have here, the it'll show the material items. Oops. It'll show you like your material items for this manhole. This is a list of all the raw material. Here's a list of our rebar, straight bar, bent bar. And then with these, it'll also calculate the cost. So I can put in the material costs are going to automatically pull in from the material tabs. I can put in the number of labor hours required. And then when I click the report, this is going to show you a error message. It'll show you the costs associated to each of the different items, based on the different formulas that we have set up. The next part of it is setting it up for, this part is where you're setting it up to where it can be copied into a job. So if I have an existing job out there, I can come into here, I have this barrier job that's been predefined. I can come into that job. Sorry, it's under View Edit Production Pieces. So this is something that your engineering detailing staff would be able to do. Engineering, View Edit Production Pieces, select the job, and then up here you can either add pieces or you can add from template. And if I select the add from template, I can then come in and fill out what phase of this job am I going to add the product, which plant, what product type, and then it's given me a choices of all the ones that I had set up already. It'll pull in that piece mark, but then I can change it on here if I want to as well. And then how many of them do I want to add? I'll just say 10. And then when I add this to the job, it'll automatically copy in the information right from that template that we had before. Again, if there's slight modifications, if you need to, like if this one was going to be 2 feet wide, you can always override that at the job level, changing the cubic yards, and then also material wise, you could also delete one piece and swap out another piece. If I come in here and select the, if you have attached a drawing in the Piecemark template, and then when you copy that to a job, it's going to automatically show it as release for production, and it's going to automatically copy the drawing into this project. So I can click on that drawing, open it up, and it's going to show you that detailed drawing again, specific now to this piece. And then production would be able to pull up View at QC as well. So it pulls everything in, and then again, you can go in and make the changes if you need to make it a slight variation of this specific product. If you're going to use the estimating, the coding portion of it, that's where the standard items assembly comes into play. This is where you would come in and create what we consider to be our standard assemblies. I'm going to put in that it's a barrier 12 foot. Each. So I've just added this one. And then when I go in and open it, this is where I would come in and actually select what does it include. And so I'm going to say it includes, this barrier. And now that will be able to be selected over on an actual proposal. If I open up this one down here for this manhole 6x6x7, this one's actually associated to 2 different defaults, Piecemark defaults. You have the base, and then you have the lid for the manhole. And so if you select this one, it'll automatically copy in, again, both of those products as well. Within sales, if you go under the estimate proposal lookup, I've already created this sample job. I wasn't going to walk through the whole process of creating an actual bid. If I go and pull up and edit this sales information, and I go into the bids tab, I can come up here and add a new bid. And then when I edit that bid, I can come in and select my the date I want to show up on there. I'll just say it's a budget quote. And then the quote types, there's a quote that's specific to standard products. And so if I select that type and hit save, it will then copy in all of the quote information that we've defined underneath our quote templates. So it brings in the general bid information. There's a section for alternates, clarifications, terms and conditions. And then the main item is here for stock items. So if I edit that item, and then I can say I can add an actual assembly to the proposal, it'll come up and it's going to show me all of those products that I defined as standard assembly products underneath the accounting module. And then I can just pick which ones do I want to add to this quote. And it's going to automatically populate each of those different ones. And then again, based on where were they set up. So this one's set up at one location. This one's set up at a different location. It's also copying in the default weight. And then it'll also copy in any of the pricing based on if you have your material pricing all set up in Concrete Vision. From here, you can then go in and modify that pricing. So I'm going to just take this one down to 3,000, 1,200, and they want 5 of those. The curbing, they want 10 of those. And then for the barriers, they want 10 of those as well. And so if you make any changes to the pricing on this page, it's only specific to this one proposal. It does not change anything that you set up underneath the accounting tab. So once I save and close that, I can come in here, and if I click on the report icon, it's going to open up a standard proposal that we've created for stock items. It'll have, your company information, logo, who is it going to, the quote information, the name of the bid that you're sending out the proposal for, and then it's also listing each one of your individual products. The item number, quantity, total price, with the grand total at the bottom. And then onto the second page, it has the different sections, your general bid description, clarifications, includes, excludes, and then again, the payment terms. As with the quoting, if there's something that you wanted to change, like underneath the items that are included, excluded, I can click on the edit button. And I can come down and say, okay, for this one, I want to include that, include this, and include this one. And when I save that, and now when I reprint it, it's going to have those changed just for this one. So now what's included are, these 2 items, and then these are all the items that are excluded. So you can change around those items specific to a single proposal. If you can also lock things within the proposal. So like your payment terms, you could have come in and where these are not allowed to be changed by a salesperson, they would be locked so that they always print out this exact information. The other thing you could also do is there's this display column. And this is where, if I say, well, this just doesn't apply, then you can uncheck those 2 things, select save and close. And now when I click on my report again, now those are no longer included in the scope clarification section. So it basically is just taking the template that was set up and copying it into here as well. Again, within the stock items, there's also a place in here where if you needed to add additional notes to this specific item that you're quoting, you can click on this edit icon. You can also create like standard comments that would then just copy them into here. You can modify those once they've been copied. And then again, when I click on the report button, it'll have that additional information showing up underneath this item here as well. You'll notice that this is kind of repetitive here as well. And that is another thing within the standard items or stock items. If you don't want to show those line items, you can just uncheck this box. And then what it'll do is it'll only show just a single item, and it won't show that there's actually two sub items underneath this one item. It just has the main line item. So you can collapse all of the detail. If you have a whole bunch of stuff added into one product, you can not have to show all of those individual line items on the proposal as well. Now, if you're sending that same proposal to multiple people, once you have the first one set, you can come in here, select copy, and it basically is going to make a duplicate of that proposal. And then you can come in here, edit it. You could change who you want it sent to. If it's just a matter of they wanted to come in and make it where I just have just the barrier on it and nothing else, I would be able to come in here and do that. And then that way they have two different proposals now, one for barriers only and one for multiple products. You can also, from this screen here, if you wanted to send the proposal directly from here, you can click the email button, and that's going to open up a email window. You can specify who do you want to send it to. It'll contain the summary information in your email, and then it'll also include the PDF of the proposal included within the email itself. So you don't have to print it, save it to a PDF, open it, and send it through your normal email. You can send the email out directly from Concrete Vision. Once they decide if they want to go ahead with one of the proposals, you can select the winning bid on the proposal if there's multiple ones. And then when you go to move to a job, if I come in here and type in my job number, what date was it awarded on? And when I hit save and close, what it does is it automatically moves this to a new job. And then it also automatically adds all of those pieces that were included in the standard quote. So I had a barrier, I had a curb, and then I had the manhole that was created. And so it'll create a single piece mark for each one of those that's created. And then you can go through and keep track of that information, from this step forward, go through your normal production scheduling, QC, yarding, dispatch. And again, because these already had the default PDF on them, that's also included. So anytime you click on the drawing, again, it just opens up the PDF for that standard product. Okay, and then with that, I know a little bit brief. Hopefully I didn't go too fast. I'm gonna turn it back over to Brent. I'll leave this screen open so that if people have, as people have questions and stuff, we can kind of walk through those questions with you. So do we have any questions at this point, Brent?
Yeah, so we haven't had any questions in the chat.
Okay.
If you have any questions, there should be an icon with a little speech bubble that you can click and type questions in. We'll answer those. One question that I think people might have, Where do you add the default drawings to these templates?
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. So when
That's-
you create when you have all of these templates, there is on this screen, there's this file here, and you would just go out, look for the drawing that you want. And then hit save. And then that associates your default drawing to this specific standard product. If there's a revision to the drawing, you would just come into here, make any changes. You know, if this went up to 1.3, you would then just remove the old drawing and then browse and select the new drawing that you want to attach with the latest revision.
Excellent. We do have a question about material cost. How do you enter the material cost?
Underneath your material items and assemblies, each item, if you pull one up, this is where your raw material item costs weight would be. And then if you have the assembly, that's for the material items. If you have your material assemblies, like a standard plate, it would then look at the raw material. Okay, bad example, that one doesn't have any. So if I go to my straight bar, when I selected this number 5 rebar, it has a specific unit cost. And so it takes that unit and then it multiplies it by the length for the rebar. And that's what comes up with this estimated cost. You could then type in an overrided cost for this specific item if you wanted to charge more. So, but what it's doing is it'll take each individual line item, and then if it's a dimensional item, it'll take the unit cost times the dimensional length to get your total cost. And it'll do that for each individual line item. So if I were to add a second, rebar to this one, for example, and set it was 10 feet, when I hit save, it's going to automatically show that my default cost now is 23, not 13, because of this extra item that I added.
If there are questions you have after this that you wanted to see or have a chat about it, I'm going to share my contact info. This is my direct line and my email. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And we can help you if you need some help starting to use this new feature. I'm excited about this new feature. Thank you so much, Dan, for taking the time out of your day to show it to us. And as I mentioned, we expect to have regular webinars going forward as we release new features and as training for new features. If you have an idea for a webinar that you would love to see, send me an email, call me. I'm always open to ideas from our customers about new ideas for webinars that we could do. So with that being said, if we have no other questions that I see in our chat, thank you all